Hi, welcome back. It has been a little bit of a minute. I'm trying to think since the last time you and I talked was, I think, the beginning of June, right? And now it's the end of August. I don't know when this is going to come out, but right now, as I'm recording this, it's the Friday before, whatever that long weekend is. I always mix up Labor Day and Memorial Day. I can get a lot of things right in this world. Labor Day and Memorial Day, I always mix up. Whichever the one that weekend is, the end of August, that's the one. It's the Friday before that long weekend. And we're here. Hi. So much has happened since we've talked. One, I've cut my hair. I'm going to go shorter actually next week. I'm cutting it all off. This was like a baby step into cutting my hair off. I cut like, I don't know, a good 8-10 inches off. And next week we're going shorter, which feels so good. You guys may or may not know this, but when I was living in Chicago, I had really short hair. And then since we moved to California, I've just kind of let it grow. Wait, P.S. This is not at all what I planned on talking about. Hi guys, welcome back. Let's talk about my hair. But I think symbolically over the summer, there was something about cutting it off that was just like, I know that there's some traditions and cultures that believe like your hair has energy. And I just needed like a weight cut off of me. And if I, honest to God, when he cut my hair, he turned me around so I didn't see the chair. And it's grown about 2 inches since I had it cut. He just like chopped it off and turned me around. And I was like, yeah, that feels right. So kind of feel like a new woman. Haircut, yes, but the break, bigger. A lot of stuff has happened. A lot has shifted for me in a really good way. And so I'm really excited to catch up with all of you. But before we do any of this, I just want to say thank you. I know I don't have to say this. I know probably a majority of you didn't even know that I took a pause. So you're probably like, Katie, we're not thinking that much about you. I get it. But thank you for your patience. All of you have been incredibly supportive of the podcast. I was never intending on taking a break. My goal was to get to 52 weeks and then to take like a week or two off. And, life happens and things don't always go according to plan. And it was really difficult for me to admit that I needed a break and stepping back and doing that. And so I just want to say thank you for your patience and thank you for your support. I think taking pauses, especially as ambitious women, can feel really difficult. And so I kind of wanted just to chat with you today about why I pushed pause, what I learned, kind of what happened, and just sort of where I'm at. Listen, I have some notes. I've got like 2 pages of notes. Don't laugh at me. Like I literally wrote out like, start here. We'll see where it goes. Happy to be back. Let's jump into things. Okay, so I'm thinking about how to get all of this in one show, and I think we should just start at the beginning. So let's rewind to June. So if I look back into where I was in June, in my mind, I was in a really good place. I was, hustling on the podcast. We had just finished the retreat. I had another project that was kind of in the works that I was really excited about. Things were going well with the kids. JP and I were doing okay. We felt settled in California. I was like, life was sort of chugging along. And I say that because I think it's really easy for women. I know, especially like myself, I get so used to doing so many things and being so good at juggling things that I think I'm actually okay. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost a default that we've, as women, have become so good at being multitaskers that we don't even recognize how much we're doing at once. And I think that's where I kind of found myself. I will tell you, I love podcasting. There's no part about it that feels like work for me. I mean, let me rephrase that. There are parts of it like scheduling guests and coordinating things and getting things over to the editor. Like there are definitely things that feel like, it's like, it's not just like sitting down having conversations, but I genuinely enjoy it. It fills me up. It feels really natural and fun to me. So there was never a part of me that was like, this feels like a grind. I don't enjoy it. I want to take a pause. Like that was not the case. If anything, the case was I'm doing great and I'm chugging along and I'm managing all these things. And I share that because I think many women find themselves in the situations where we're starting to get burnt out and run down and we don't even recognize that it's happening. For better or worse, I've become very accustomed to thriving in chaos. I've never not had my hand in a million and one different projects. We've never not been like moving or a new baby coming or changing things up. And I know many of you are similar, right? Like if you're listening to this, most likely you're like a really ambitious woman, whether that is having ambition in the home or out of the home. We all have things that we're striving for, whether it's like to work on ourselves or to work on stuff in the family dynamics or to work on our relationships. We're kind of always pushing ourselves. So we aren't women. I always joke with JP, like I'm never really sitting on the couch eating bonbons, although I don't even know if they even make bonbons anymore. And if I were to sit on the couch eating bonbons, I think that would be really glorious. And I would love that too. JP has said to me, we've joked about this before. He has said, like, even if you had a lemonade stand, like it would become like you would try to make it the best lemonade stand out there possible. So I don't think it matters like what situation I put myself in. I'm always going to be that person who, or I have historically always been that person who's sort of pushed myself to excellence or try to like learn something or become better or strive to something greater. And, a part of that served me well ish. And as I'm, approaching my late 40s, I'm starting to understand that, maybe some of that isn't so great and maybe there is another way to live. So when I say that because I was really blindsided by how burnt out I think I had become. So the school year was ending. There was a million and one things going on with the kids. As you all know, we can all like go back to that feeling, especially if you're a parent, like what June, end of May, beginning of June is like. And it's chaos. And we had a trip coming up to go see my parents in Ohio. And I had a couple of episodes that I needed to get out the door in order to make deadlines so that while I was on vacation, episodes would air. And in my head, I had it all like laid out on my calendar. I was like, I've got an hour window here, a 2 hour window here. I can make it all work before running to this like ballet performance and then running to this end of school performance. Like, I've got it, no problem. And it's, life has a way of laughing at us as soon as we make plans or whatever that phrase is. And sure enough, as that school year was coming to a close, there was a million and one little fires that happened. People got sick. Things were just like going awry. Some kids had really big emotions and just like, for lack of a better word, shit was hitting the fan. And the episodes that I had planned on recording at the end of May, beginning of June just didn't happen. It's just like there was no way to do it. My choice was to sit at like 11 o'clock at night and record it or just not get it done. And I'm not a person who misses deadlines. Like I don't, if you tell me something's got to get done, like I'm the person you give shit to. Like I am the person who gets shit done. And I found myself in a situation like, I really can't figure this out. Like, this really isn't going to work. This is not going to work itself out. And a part of me too is like, I could have pushed. I could have recorded things late in the evenings. I could have, gotten up even earlier than I already was. I could have not shown up to some of my kids' performances. But I also think there's a part of me that's trying to live the way I preach and trying to really practice what I preach. And when I was practicing what I preach is like, take care of yourself, be mindful of your time. And so there was a part of me that was like, if I was coaching a woman who was in this situation, what would I say? And I think I would say to her, like, you're going to miss the deadline. You're just going to take a break. And that was really difficult for me to do. And so I called my editor and I said to her, who is fabulous, by the way, and she's nothing but wonderful and gracious with me. And I was like, how big of a deal is it to miss a week? And she's like, not that big of a deal, Katie. Like, shit happens. Like, take a week or two off. And she's like, it's not ideal, but like, let's keep it tight. Let's take like a week or two. I'm like, okay. So she's like, let's record a little episode, like a little mini, like whatever commercial, if you will, to stick into the episode explaining that you're taking a break. So I'm like, okay. So I go to Ohio, I spend some time with my family, and in my mind, I'm giving myself the week or two off. And when I got to Ohio, I don't know, it wasn't like anything major happened in Ohio, but I think it was like I was back in my childhood home. I was with my mom and dad, who I have a really close relationship with, and I haven't in, I don't know, a few decades really had time with my parents that was really slow and leisurely. This was 2 weeks that I had with them where we really had nothing to do. And I think allowing them to care for me in a different way and the combination of being in my childhood home felt really nourishing and new for me. I'm not good at letting people take care of me. I'm really not good at that. I'm good at telling people to telling people to do that. But me, not so much. So, there were many days on this trip where I'd wake up in the morning and I'd leave my phone in my childhood bedroom and I wouldn't see my phone until the end of the day. Many days, most of the days. And that was really new for me and it was really wonderful. And my mom would be like, you want a cup of coffee? I'm like, I do, girl. And we'd go sit on her front porch or my parents' front porch. And I mean, there were days JP would laugh because he'd be like, girls, it's like 1 o'clock, 2 p.m. You're still sitting there drinking coffee. And, there was a huge part of me like, I know, and I never let myself do this. I never do this. And I got to indulge in time with my mom that I don't know how much more time I'll have with her. I mean, yes, I'm hoping I have a lot of time with her. But there's just that awareness that time is fleeting and it felt really great. So as we were coming home from Ohio, I had looked at JP on the plane and I thought I was coming back to no, I did think I was coming back to podcasting. I'm like, I'm going to get back next week. One of the two youngest kids were going to camp. I've just got the oldest two home. I've got a couple episodes I can't wait to record. And there was a part of me, I looked at JP in the plane. I'm like, I feel like something has awoken in me on this trip, and I am not sure I'm ready to give it up. Like I'm not ready to give it up yet. Not ready any more time like this. There's something here. There's something here that I haven't experienced before. I need to let this softer version of me just exist for a little bit. And I'm not ready to come out of the cocoon. And he's like, great, don't. Who cares? Take the whole summer. And him saying, like, take the whole summer, take 2 months, take 3 months, take a year, felt in my gut nauseating. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I took 2 weeks, maybe like one more week. Like, I can't take the whole summer. And he's like, what would happen if you did? Nothing. I want to pause here for a second because I just want to address something that I think is really important that I think is difficult for women who are maybe trying to get back into the workforce or are working from home or have side hustles, and you're also a primary caregiver of your kids. I think for better or worse, my projects, whether it's podcasting, whether it's meditation retreats, whether it's meditation groups, Substack, whatever, does not pay for our mortgage. It's not paying for my kids' college. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just where I find myself. I would love to get to a point where this did help financially for our family. That definitely could use it. I feel fortunate that we don't have to have it right now, but absolutely would it help our family? 100%. My kids are getting older. We're really starting to like crack down on like saving for school and different expenses. It's like things are becoming more and more expensive as the kids are getting older. I mean, I know all of you know this, like nothing is getting cheaper in the world. And so there's definitely a lot of pressure I feel to help contribute financially. And we've had conversations about, what would it look like if I went back and had a more traditional 9 to 5. I worked in advertising for almost a decade. I am a smart girl. I have 2 bachelor's degrees. I could easily go, not easily, I could try to go get a job that would be more financially lucrative for our family. And so I say that because walking away from podcasting and Substack and all the things for the summer, almost because we aren't relying on it financially, gave me an easier out. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I do think when you're relying on something financially, there's a certain amount of value you place on the work you're doing. And I think for me, sometimes this feels like, and I do this to myself, it's a mental thing, but like an expensive hobby. Like no one's forcing me to be here. I don't have to be here. And so I'm like, what am I doing? I'm giving up time with my kids. I'm giving up time in the summer, doing something that like isn't even like lucrative for our family. And what am I doing here? I know in my heart what I'm doing, but my mind likes to play those tricks on me. So I want to share that because I think it's important to acknowledge that there's a privilege and a curse that comes with like the financial strains that either are or aren't attached to projects. And I'm not going to dissect it now, but just saying like, I recognize that I am very privileged that I could take a pause. And I also recognize that because there isn't a financial string attached to it, I sometimes don't value the work I'm doing as much as I should because I'm not supporting our family. And so I don't see sometimes my own work as important as I should. And I wish I could change that. I'm working on that mentally, but I know for many of you who, if you have a side hustle and you're a primary caregiver and financially it doesn't look the way it should look based on how hard you're working, I know sometimes it can feel like it's not as valuable as maybe your partner's work. So anyway, I think that there was a component of that also went into that decision of like, okay, the kids are all home. They're not in camps. I need to take care of them. And so it's going to default on me also. So some of this was driven by like, I needed a break and I couldn't figure out how to make it all work over the summer. When I first decided I was going to take a pause on any of my projects, including, podcasting, and for better or worse, unfortunately, one of the very first things I started doing was taking all that same hustler energy, for lack of a better word, And I started channeling it in other things. I started channeling it into things in our home. I started channeling into things with the kids. I'm like, well, if I'm not working, I'm going to get all of our doctors and dentist appointments organized for the year. And I'm like, I'm going to even schedule them for 2026, 2027. Like, how organized can I get in our calendar? I'm going to clean out closets. Lillian had been asking me to do like a little mini room makeover. I'm like, say less, girl, done and done. Let's go to Home Goods. I'm going to get you new organizers. We're going to like put up little LED lights. I just channeled all the energy I used to be putting into podcasting, and I just put it into the kids and into our schedule and into like my homemaking and my organizing. And I was just doing the same shit, just channeling it to a different direction. And I realized I'm like, okay, you're not really taking the break that your body and your mind are telling you you need. And I think this is really a hard thing for women. I definitely identify myself as someone who is a doer. I like to check things off a list. It like makes me feel really good. I like getting things done. It's hard for me to find my own sense of self-worth when I'm not doing those things. Like, am I like as amazing or am I as productive? Like, am I worthy if I'm also, sitting on the couch at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or reading a book on the beach in the middle of the day or taking a bath in the middle of the day? Like, that felt wildly uncomfortable for me. I know it sounds so silly. It just is. Like, there was a part of me that was like, you're lazy. You know how many women are doing so much more than you. And maybe it's because of it's a mother thing as I'm just thinking about it. Like, is it that there's this clock ticking on us? Feels like if you sit down, like someone's going to get lost or the house is going to catch on fire. And I think my nervous system is so used to being a go, 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 go that when I came home from Ohio and I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself this break. I'm going to, really slow down. I'm going to read some books. I'm going to get off my phone. And that first couple of weeks or two, my body was like, no, you are not. Get off of that couch. Like, you are going to organize that hall closet. Look at this pantry. We could have it all organized for next year. Let's get ahead of back to school shopping. Like, my mind was just messing with me. And it took me a hot minute. And it took also JP to be like, what are you doing? Because he'd come home at the end of the day. I'm like, I'm exhausted. He's like, what happened to the house? It's like all torn up. I was like, what do you mean? It's looking amazing. And turning off that hustler part of me or that doer part of me, that achiever part of me was really, really hard. And thankfully, I was in therapy this summer. I started therapy the end of May, beginning of June, and I have a great therapist. I've always been big into therapy. When I was in Chicago, I was doing it. But since we moved to California, I really hadn't been in therapy. Listen, I think finding a therapist and starting therapy is really difficult. So there's a whole layer of like, I just didn't have the bandwidth to add something else to my list to be like, let me interview a therapist. But as the spring was kind of winding down, I recognized like, okay, I really need this. There's a lot that's changed in my life. I think I hadn't really processed our move. I don't think I had processed really the hysterectomy. I don't think I had processed like my kids getting older and like looking at colleges. Like, there was so much happening in this midlife. I think in many ways I was almost having like a midlife awakening. Like, I know it's midlife crisis, but you know what I mean? Like, and it is a very real thing. It's this feeling of like everything's moving so quickly. So much has changed. So much has happened in the past couple of years. I barely even recognize my life. And instead of processing a lot of it and slowing down, I just add more to my plate. So I recognized like I was doing this, and I recognized I was doing that this summer, with like the house projects and getting our calendar color coded. I'm so embarrassed. And I was like, okay, this is a problem. This is a me problem. Not a problem, but like this is a habit. This is something that was once adaptive that's become maladaptive, and you need to work on this. And so I became my own project over the summer. And I was like, this is what we're going to work on. And I had found a therapist, and we had gotten started back at the end of the school year. And she's great. We practice cognitive behavioral therapy, so it's CBT. And she is an IFS certified, I don't know what to call it, coach, practitioner, therapist, whatever you call it. If you're not familiar with IFS, it's internal family systems. It's sometimes called parts work. And it's really this idea of like, there are parts that we develop at a very young age that are adaptive to help us like cope with different things. And these parts aren't good or bad, but at some point in our life, they can kind of become maladaptive. And so for me, there was this hustler part that at a very young age, I was doing the million and one different jobs. I had a job, and I remember when I graduated from college, I And my parents like joked, like, you can't come home unless you pay rent. I mean, I don't think they were actually going to charge me rent, but I was like, I'm not going home. I'm not going back to Ohio. I have no interest in that. All of the different summers, I was either working in advertising, had internships. And then the day I graduated on a Friday and I started work on a Monday in Chicago, I like packed all my stuff up in U-Haul, moved, got myself settled. And I was never going to let the grass grow underneath me. I was always hustling and moving. And a part of that served me really well. I think it's like why I was successful in my career, why I also am kind of like a go-getter. And as we clearly talked about, some of that is maladaptive, like, right? Some of that is had me like running from things and constantly chasing external achievements. And I know this mentally, right? Like I know this, but it's so deeply embedded within me that even when I think that part has quieted down, it clearly has not. And it continues to surface. And so as we started doing this work, this parts work, my therapist had asked me like really point blankly, she's like, when do you think you first developed this part? Like, where did it come from? Do you know? And yes, like I think from a young age, I'd always gotten validation from my achievements. And so that's kind of like how I earned love and appraisal. Yes. But I really think where it really stemmed from was when I had my fourth baby. And I think something shifts in us as women when we have kids, especially if we're really ambitious women. So much of my life I felt really in control of my career in advertising, then working in, going back to culinary school. Like I was like fucking crushing it. Like when I was in culinary school, I started working at a Michelin star restaurant and I was like, I'm not going to be at like a regular restaurant. I'm going to be at the best restaurant. I'm going to work my way up and I'm going to be one of the only women in the kitchen and I'm going to prove myself. Like I had this drive that was, I don't know, and for better or worse, things worked out for me. And then when I had kids, I think there was a part of me that really tried to apply that same dynamic to motherhood. Like, I'm going to become the best at this. I'm going to make the baby food and I'm going to read every book and we're going to sleep schedule. And I was very controlling. And I think there was a really big part of me that, especially by the time I had my fourth, felt wildly out of control with my identity. I had completely lost myself in these kids. And that hustler part was like really itching to get out, to be like, get away from the babies, figure something out, keep moving. If you lean too much into motherhood, you'll be swallowed whole and you will become worthless. And you need to be something more. You can't just be a mom. Like there was a thing in my head, like I need to be more than just a mom, I need to be more than just a mom. Not consciously. I wasn't like consciously saying this, but I think it was so deeply embedded into my subconscious. And I also think there was a part too that for better or worse, when JP and I got married, and I don't know if I've shared this before, but I was working in a kitchen making minimum wage. And he had a really great career and was working on having a great career. We met when we had like $2 to our name, both of us. We had nothing. But he was going places and I was like, okay, I'm going to stay at home. It doesn't make sense. And I really feel like I kind of walked away from a career and I walked away from that kind of validation. And I think there was a part of me that was resentful to him and felt trapped and sort of regretted that I didn't have my own income, that I didn't have my own money. He never made me feel that way, but it was a part of me. Like I wasn't used to being dependent on someone. Now here I am reliant on someone. I'm dependent on someone and I'm a really smart girl. I have 2 bachelor's degree. I was successful. Like how did I get myself in a situation where I have these 4 young kids now and I financially I have no income. I have nothing of my own. And also on top of it, I felt just like out of control. And so I think that hustler part of me that was served me well as a young woman now was rearing its ugly head in a very maladaptive way. And it was like, well, we better figure it out. You can't go get a job because you have to stay home and take care of these kids. They still have babies napping. So like, what are we going to do? And then that's when I started food blogging and everything started like snowballing into like kind of where we are today. But I've never really learned how to slow down and stop. But I would said to my therapist, that hustler part of me quieted down when I was in Ohio. And she said to me, what would happen if that hustler part wasn't driving the bus, like wasn't in charge, which is part of like what you do in IFS work. Like we're not trying to get rid of that. Like I'm never going to get rid of that hustler part. I think it's just like having an awareness and being able to say like, okay, that part of me exists. There's a reason it exists. I have compassion for it. It makes sense. It's not really serving me well right now. And so what if I set that aside and she no longer drives the bus? Like what other parts of me could maybe resurface? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. But I think that there was a really tender part of me and like a nurturing part of me that was starting to come to the surface when I was in Ohio. And we had already begun starting to do this parts work before I'd gone to Ohio. So I was kind of just witnessing this and I was just getting really curious, like with what else was coming up for me. I think there was just this part of me that was like, I really am grateful for being able to be a mother and that I have these young kids and that I am a daughter to this incredible woman. I want to be able to spend time with her. And I just had this awareness of like how there was this tender part of me who wanted to just appreciate all of the beauty and all of the blessings and everything in front of me without feeling like I needed to be doing more. JP had said something to me one day and like we were driving and I had just been like very, very emotional over the whole summer because I was really allowing this like hustler part to take the back seat and this tender, vulnerable young girl was in the front seat and I'd be like really emotional and we were driving and I don't even know what it was. I think we were coming home from like a plant store and I'd gotten some new plants for our patio and just having fun doing the silliest things, but like with no real goal attached. And I was emotional and I'm like, I don't know what it is. I'm feeling something really strange and I can't put my finger on it, but I feel really emotional. And he said to me, I think you're just happy. Like maybe you're just happy. What if you just allowed yourself to be content and happy right now? Like, is it that difficult? It sounds so silly, but I think it was. I think for a long time, as much as I thought I was content and happy, and as much as I thought I was like living a really peaceful life, I think there was a part of me that still had a little of this undercurrent of like, well, I got to get this done. And once Lillian's okay with this, and oh, I'm just worried about Asher with this. There was always just like this little undercurrent of like nothing was 100% settled. And I think this summer, there was a really big part of me that rose up that's like, actually, I'm just really happy right now. And I had a lot of those moments. And, you know, in the mindfulness space, we call that presence, like where you're just really, really present and aware, like in the moment you're in, and you feel this. It was a combination of deep sense of gratitude and a deep sense of just curiosity and awe and wonder of like, oh my God, like how cool is this moment? And I wonder what this would be like. That really came to the surface for me this summer, this sense of curiosity and presence and play. And I really did my best to keep this young, tender version of myself at the forefront of my day to day life and sort of would wake up and just ask myself, like, what would my younger self want to do right now? Like, what would this tender part of me want to do right now? And there were days like, I want to go for a bike ride. I want to go swim in the ocean. And I still had to take care of my kids. It wasn't like I had no responsibilities, but I would take them along with me. And they were like, you're being so weird, Mom. I was like, I know. You know, it would be silly things like at the end of the day, Frankie would ask me, he's gotten this game Mancala, and he'd be like, can I take a bath in your bathtub? And it'd be like 8 o'clock. And I used to say no to a lot of that stuff. Like, no, take a bath in your own, go to your own bathroom. Mom's got stuff to do. I'm trying to wrap up some stuff. I want to get into bed. And I'm like, sure, let's take a bubble bath in my bath. You want to play Mancala on my bed? And we'd sit there and we play, and it's a game with these like little marbles. I just got really caught up in the moment. And that would be every day, just like caught up, whether it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I tell the kids, like, I'm gonna go take a bath and go take a bath. Or I'd sit on the couch and read books, and my other kids would come and sit with me, and we'd all end up like reading books on the couch. Like, what is happening? Like, am I a family that we sit and read books on the couch now in the middle of the day? And we were like, that's what was happening. And pottery classes, I started swimming in the ocean. I was taking like long leisurely walks. And I will tell you, our whole house changed. Like the barometer just came down for everyone and everything. And it was such a wonderful, relaxing few months and such like a deeply feeling a few months. I don't think I could possibly have cried any more than I did this summer, but in a really, really good way of just like, I'm so flipping happy. Just really a lot of really special moments. Lillian would ask me, like, you want to go for a walk? I'm like, yeah. I said yes. The kids would ask me things and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, let's do that. You want to bake that? Sure. Yeah, let's do that. You want to stay up late, have, camp out under the stars? Let's do that tonight. Let's set up a tent. I don't know how to now take that woman and put her back in the real world. So I was saying to JP, I was like, and my therapist said, like, okay, at some point, this like tender young girl can't keep driving the bus either. Like, we have to also live in the real world. And so now I'm trying to reconcile, like, how do I maneuver into the world, knowing that there's this tender part of me that likes to exist. I like living in the present moment. I like being a mom who says yes. I like giving myself these little simple joys every single day. It feels really good. And how to function in the day-to-day world, right? Because like I still do like want to achieve things. I still want to make this podcast really successful. I still want to write for Substack. I still want to write a book. I still want to continue to host meditation retreats. And there's a huge part of me that's thinking like maybe I even want to change careers. Like I was talking to my therapist, I'm like, I don't know what's next. Like I think this feels really good right now, but there's also that hustler part of me in a healthy way that is debating like I still have many chapters ahead of me. And I'm curious about what else that could look like. There is a part of me that feels like I should have this figured out by now that summer's coming to an end. And that I should know, like, what does this look like? What's next for you? What do you want to do? And I'm not there yet. I know one thing for sure, though, like, if I'm going to take time away from the kids and take time away from, I don't know, like this tender present part of myself, I want it to be really fulfilling and really rewarding. And I want to make an impact. And I want to make a difference in as many people's lives as I can, even though I'm not sure what my gifts are or how I'm making a difference in people's life. Like there's a huge part of me that like wants to do that. And I've been feeling, to be just totally candid, a little bit of anxiousness started to arise as the kids were going back to school. It was like that last week of school, our last week of summer. And when they went back to school, that first day, I came home. I just cried. I was sad that the summer was over, and I was sad that they were going back. And any mother can relate to this feeling. But I had said to them, and I mean this in a really wonderful way, but JP was back at work and the kids were back at school. And I said, all of you are going off and doing your things. Like you're all flying off. And in the most wonderful way, like you have a reason, you have a purpose, you have something you're pursuing, whether that's, Asher started in his junior year, trying to look at colleges, and JP's working on things at work. And the younger kids are off and they're starting their new clubs and their new activities. And everyone has this like sense of purpose and this drive and this like newness about the year for them. And I came home from dropping them off and I just stood in the kitchen and, I was cleaning up the crust of the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because God forbid Sloan eat crust on his sandwiches. And I just cried. And I think it was a feeling of a little bit being left behind. Like they all went off and did their things. And here I am again, just being left behind. And now what? Like now who am I? And just an immense amount of gratitude for such a beautiful couple of months with them, of like understanding how lucky I am and how lucky we are that we are all, the six of us able to have such a slow, beautiful summer. And, you know, as I look back, as I'm tying this just back to like what my therapist and I talked about when that part of me really became maladaptive, that hustler part. And it was really around when I was that young mother taking care of the kids. And here I am, 16 years later. And I had that opportunity to, if have those same feelings of here I am again, cleaning up crust of peanut butter and jellies, and they're all off doing their things now. And, recognizing that same part of me, but she's grown and I'm wiser now and I have more self compassion now. And I get to choose a new way of moving forward. Like they are off in school and this is a new chapter for me. And I get to make a new decision of like, what does that look like for me? I think for a long time, I've been trying to prove that I was like more than just a mom and have these other side hustles or projects. But the truth is that's a huge part of who I am. And I've dedicated so much of my time, my life to them. And I wouldn't have traded it for anything. I was walking the beach after I got in the kitchen cleaned up. I just took myself for a little walk. I was like, I'm not quite ready to jump into anything yet. I'm going to go for a little walk here. And I was listening to Spotify and had this like random shuffle playlist, and this song by Fleetwood Mac came up. It's that song Landslide. That's such a cheesy song. I know, but you're going to like laugh when I tell you this. But those lyrics came on about, I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you. And oh man, like those lyrics hit me. If you are a parent and you have not listened to that song lately, just put it on and you're like, oh, okay. I'm ready for a good cry. But it really was this idea of like, I have been maybe a little bit afraid of changing and I have built my life around them, even though I have other things. Like the truth is they are the core of who, that is the core of who I am. And I have built my life around being this present mother. And now what? They're getting older. I'm getting older. I have had this feeling before of like feeling behind, of like, I'm 46, and I think this happens, right? And when we get to this age, and I don't know the language of it. I'm going to look this up. I want to know the language. There's a language here of like this idea of like grieving the life you didn't live. Not that you're like so sad. Like I love my life, and yet I'm to the point in my life where like I'm probably not going to become a doctor. Like I'm probably not going to marry someone else. I'm probably not going to go off and have more kids. Like life has been lived, decisions have been made. Like I'm on a course for better or worse. Like, it's that whole thing of like sliding doors. Like I've made my choices. And I think when we're younger, you have this like sense of like optimism, like you can go off and do anything. And now I'm 46. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go off and do anything, but I can still go off and do some things. And 46 is still incredibly young. And I know that I probably have a couple more decades in me that I want to pursue some passions of mine. And, I read this quote the other day and I'm going to butcher it, but it was something on the idea of like, instead of being at like whatever you are, like 36 or 46, whatever the age is, instead of wishing you were 18, imagine you're 90 and you just woke up from a dream and like you have however many more years ahead of you still get to live. So like, this is for me as if I'm 90, like looking back and like, oh my God, I'm waking up and I'm only 46. I still got so much time. I can still go do so many things. And so part of me has been playing with like, do I go back to school? I've always wanted to be a therapist. I'm like, maybe I become a therapist. I don't know. Like we could go do anything. Well, not anything as we just discussed, but like there are still things, and I know a really rich career and a rich life ahead of me. And I know I've built my life around my kids. I know I've built this side hustle around also being able to be at home with my kids, and it has served me well. And that chapter is going to start coming to a close. And so what's next? I don't know. I don't really have a good way of wrapping this up in a bow. I wish I did, because I feel like I like have all the answers to life if I could do that. But unfortunately, I'm still just figuring it all out. I'm grateful for the summer. I'm grateful for the pause I had. I'm grateful for allowing that hustler part of me to kind of take a back seat. I plan on continuing to podcast and continuing to host my retreats and doing all those things. I'm just doing it from a very, very different part of me. And that feels really, really, really good. I will always be true to myself, which is like, I want to work with women and help women and bring mindfulness to the forefront of our lives. And I want to do it in a way that feels really aligned for me. And I think as I look back, I don't know that it always was. And I'm excited to try it again. So I hope that this was somehow helpful. I don't know how, but in some way helpful for you. I think we all get to these point in our lives where we need to step back and reevaluate things. For me, it was how I pursue side hustles and passion projects and where I'm going with them. But for you, whether it's your own career or relationships or how you're parenting, it's never too late to step back. I think we are, as women, as a culture, as a society, we're always really afraid of stepping back and slowing down. And I see many, many, many women I know whom I admire very greatly who are, who preach about self-love or, mindfulness and being present, and yet are like hustling the heck out of themselves. And I was that for many, many years. I just want to say, like, I think that the world we're living in, whether it's like social media or just like always having to multitask for women because there's not enough support, that there's a lot of pressure on us to be doing more. And I don't think that that pressure is going to go anywhere anytime soon. I don't think the internet's turning off or like influencers are turning off or that like we're not going to always feel this pressure to be juggling so many different things. But I think we can have more awareness around what matters to us and where our values are and like how we identify with like, I don't know, what success looks like for us. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. I'm excited to get back into a groove with all of you. I adore you, and I'm excited to talk to you next week.